Hello! In today's video I'm going to give you a full guide on everything you need to know when you play as a Bubba. So in case you don't know me, by the time I'm making this video, I have 1000 hour in-game playing time, and in those hours I've played 5000 games as a family, and I would say approximately 3000 of those games as Leatherface. If you are complete new to Leatherface, you can watch the video from the beginning until the end, maybe even repeat the old steps or watch and then go into a game and try it yourself and then go to the next step. And if you're already experienced, you can go into the time steps in the video below and go to the thing that interests you or the thing you don't know or sounds very interesting for you or the things you're obviously going to struggle with. This video is categorized from the beginning until the end. We're gonna go step by step, so everyone who watches it can start from the basic until the end. So how to start the game, how to start your chainsaw, until how to macro, how to find the victims, and how to get your 4Ks. And if you're interested now, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of how the video is going to be presented. In the beginning, like I said, the first thing we're going to learn is how to actually start your chainsaw. So once you're loaded into a game and you find yourself playing your Bubba, what do you have to do to actually start your chainsaw? Once you manage to start your chainsaw, you need to figure out, okay, now my chainsaw is on, what am I supposed to do with it? The most important thing, obviously, as a Leatherface, is the mobility and the overhead hits. So the next thing we're going to learn is how to run overhead, so that you actually have your chainsaw in the air and move faster. What happens a lot, especially if you're new, the first thing that's gonna happen to you once you figured out how to run overhead is that you are going to overheat. And that's why the next step in this video is going to explain what you need to do or what you have to watch out for to not overheat. Once we manage to get this done, so you're gonna be able to start your chainsaw and run around nearly non-stop without overheating, we obviously have to talk about the stalling. Because every time you're going to use your chainsaw, it doesn't matter if you hit your overhead or you M1, you have a chance of stalling. And then I'm going to explain what you have to know or what you need to watch out for to not stall. Once we're done with this, so you know now how to run, you know now what you have to look for so you can overhead the victims and not stall, which means you're gonna be able to have kill potential. We have to know how to make use out of this. Because just running around hitting a victim with your overhead will not lead to kills unless they're low HP. If you want to kill a full HP survivor at the beginning of a game, and you're going to run my build, which my loadout video is going to be now in the top right hand corner, which is Scout, you need to learn how to position yourself. Because with a big swings Bubba you don't need it, but in my opinion the mobility of Bubba is key. So we're going to learn what to do and what to watch out for and where to stand, where to position, so even without big swings you will always be able to get that one-shot combo in the beginning of the game. So now you're deadly, now you can kill them in the basement, now you can chase them, now you know how to run around. The next step is obviously going to be when you should leave the basement. Not gonna lie, it's a good part to be in the basement, it's a ton of pressure. You should always be in the basement at least a bit, because the pressure Leatherface is giving the victims to not freely do what they want is very important. But there's going to be this one important moment where you actually have to leave the basement. And if you stay in the basement too long, and that obviously depends on how the victims are playing or what your teammates are going to do, you are going to throw your game. You're going to be a non-scary, non-impactful Leatherface. So this is the next very important step. What do you have to watch out for and how you get a feeling of when to actually leave the basement. So once you managed, okay, now it is time for me to leave the basement, and you just don't randomly run circles into the basement and check the doors, you need to have a game feeling, like a macro kind of idea, right? So you're outside of the basement, but the area is huge. There are going to be a lot of doors, a lot of objectives, so where is going to be the efficient way or the efficient pathing or the next important door you have to check, which is obviously going to be, you have to be in the victim's mind. So you have to guess the victim's next moves. And in this category, we're going to show you some examples or explanation to make it easier to understand what is your job once you left your basement, or also when is your free time to destroy stuff, right? So if you think, okay, we are fine, then we can start destroying stuff, which is, I would say, the micro aspect of the Leatherface gameplay. And once you figured all of this out, let's say you guess the victim's move, right? And you know they should be in this area. We are going to teach you some tricks of how to actually find those victims. You're going to find yourself in a lot of spots where you maybe see an exit gate towards carpet reopen, and of everything I've taught you before, you now know there has to be a victim in here. Then how are you actually efficiently going to find this victim? And that is going to be the last thing of my to-do list or my explain list for you today. And once you figure that all out, and then you have all the tips and tricks I know and I use in all of my games to manage to get a good success, and maybe also some of you 4Ks on Bubba. So first things first. The first thing you want to do as a Leatherface is obviously start your chainsaw the moment the game starts. Since I'm playing on mouse and keyboard, for me to activate my ability as a family member is the right mouse button. Since the chainsaw is considered Leatherface's ability, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, on the chainsaw symbol, right above it says which button I have to click to use my ability. So for me that is my right mouse button, and if I now click the right mouse button, there's going to be like the skill check that's going to appear in the middle of my screen. As you can see, directly in the middle of that skill zone is my button I have to click, and for me, in my case, that is going to be the left mouse button. So if I do click the left mouse button now, while I'm in the white zone, I'm going to hit that skill check. It's not like as a family member, if you turn on the generator, if you don't hit that skill check, or if you let the bar all go down to 0, you're going to fail the skill check and you're gonna get slowed down. That's not the case as a Leatherface. So as long as you don't have your ability on level 3 with your Leatherface, so if you just start, you have your mouse level 1 or your ability level 2, you have to hit 3 of those skill checks. So if I click my left mouse button now, I'm going to hit the first. As you can see, I can let it go down to 0 again. Then I'm gonna hit the second. And now the moment I hit my third skill check, my chainsaw is gonna be on. You obviously don't have to wait so long, and it's also not smart to wait so long. You wanna succeed in hitting these skill checks as fast as possible, because the faster you are on the map, or the faster you can run on the map, the better it is for you and your team. And as you can see now on my screen, it says Q to stop the chainsaw. So now I can stop the chainsaw to show you again. And this can be useful if you want to be like a ninja Bubba, where you turn off a chainsaw and surprise your victims. I wouldn't recommend it. It's only there if you want to like meme or show a victim that you are friendly and you don't want to hurt them. So that's when you can turn your chainsaw off. Now I'm going to show you again, but this time I'm going to insta-hit my skill checks. So my chainsaw is going to be on as fast as possible. So this is the quickest where you can turn on your chainsaw as Leatherface until you reach your chainsaw ability level 3. The moment you hit your ability on level 3 is one of the most satisfying moments for every Leatherface player. Because at this point you already played enough, you know what to do and how to handle it, but every time you stall or you overhead or in the start of the game, it slows you down so much. But once you have visibility level 3 equipped, it allows you to instantly start your chainsaw with just one skill check. So if I do my chainsaw ability now, and I'm going to hit the skill check, my chainsaw is running and I can already go and hunt those victims down. Okay, once you started your chainsaw, you're gonna see in the bottom right hand corner your ability bar of your chainsaw. On default, when the chainsaw is off, it's at 0%, and the moment you turn your chainsaw on, it is at 50%, right? It is right now. It's when it's all the way in the bottom, when it's only yellow. To make it a little bit more easy, let's say when your chainsaw is on, your chainsaw is at 0%. And on the left side of it, you see the little bar, which fills up red the moment you rev your chainsaw. Let's say this bar reaches now all the way to the top, then your chainsaw is 100%. So this is 0%, this is 10%, 25%, and the moment your chainsaw rev hits 50%, you will automatically start to run overhead. The most important thing here is to never let the chainsaw hit the top, because once you hit the top of that bar, you will automatically overheat. So now is the question, how can you manage to run overhead while you're not going to overheat? And the answer for that is you have to tap your chainsaw button. So for PC, you have to click the right mouse for your chainsaw to rev, and you have to tap that button. So the moment you hit your 50%, you just tap your ability power or your right mouse, and then you can have that chainsaw meter over 50 but not on 100. The more experience you get, you can also listen to the chainsaw noise. The hotter your chainsaw gets, that means the more the bar goes towards 100%. At like around 90-85%, your chainsaw is going to make a beeping noise. And if you really want to have the maximum kill potential on your Leatherface, you always want to have that chainsaw around that beeping noise. So let's say 80 to 95%. Obviously you can min-max it, and if you say okay, you're consistent with having your chainsaw from 95 to 99%, it's gonna give you the most value because you're never going to stall once you hit. So how are you not going to stall if you hit a victim with your overhand? The simple thing here is you need your chainsaw Bubba level at least level 1 or best case scenario level 2. That gives you the stall resistance. So if you hit Leatherface level 1, you wanna put your point in the 10% less stalling, and if you hit your Leatherface level 2, you wanna put it out of your 10% because sadly they don't stack, and into 20%. Sadly, as long as you don't have at least level 1 and you're going to hit a victim with an overhead, you're most likely always going to stall, unless you manage to hit the victim at 95% of your chainsaw rev, which is always going to be hard and obviously not always easy to do. But even if you hit the victim with 95, you can still stall. So the reason why you stall is the moment you go for an overhead, look at the chainsaw bar, and let's say you have it at exact 50%. So the moment your Bubba starts running overhead, because doing an overhead takes away 50% of your rev and the whole yellow bar. So in general, like 75% of your full bar. I can show it here real quickly. See, and the bar goes all the way down to yellow. If you hit a victim, the bar goes all the way down to 100%. So the moment your Bubba starts running overhead, because doing an overhead takes away 50% of your rev and the whole yellow bar. So in general, like 75% of your full bar. I can show it here real quickly. See, and the bar goes all the way down to yellow. you will, let's say, use a little bit more of the bar, or it's not really the case, but if you hit the victim, so you can always do this without stalling. But if you hit the victim while you do that, there's a very high chance you stall. Kind of like in real life, right? If you just swing your chainsaw, or if you hit your chainsaw into a tree or into flesh, where there is pieces or something that can block you. Yes, of course, you're hitting the floor here, which means obviously you hit stone. That also should turn the chainsaw off, but that's not how this game is. So yeah, this is the very important thing when it comes to overheading a victim while not stalling. Just make sure to have your chainsaw at least 75%. Right here, it's totally fine. And if you're going to hit the victim now, you see you have a little yellow bar, and then you're never gonna stall. Another reason why you might stall is because of how Leatherface's M1 works. If you pay attention to the bar, every time you swing normally, you take away some of the bar. And obviously the moment this would hit 0, you're gonna stall. So even if you run behind a victim and you just want to M1 them, I can show you real quick. I start here and I just keep swinging, but I'm revving my mouse in the same time, or my chainsaw in the same time. I'm holding my mouse. You see how many hits I can get in before Leatherface actually stalls. If you do the exact same thing, but without holding your ref, and you see the M1, you will not get as many hits in, and you're going to insta-stall. So the moment your chainsaw hits 0, you are going to stall. So now we know that your normal M1s and your overhead takes away of your ref, and the moment your bar hits 0, you're always going to stall. So if you want to hit the victim now, you would need at least, let's say, 80% right here to do this, and then instantly swing twice. You saw my bar was nearly 0 and I nearly stalled. So if you really want to do an overhead and to insta 2 M1s, you have it at least at 90%. But then the same way goes for the overheads. If you hit a victim, it takes away more progress, so always be careful about that. And also I'm gonna explain a little bit later why you never want to insta hit. A golden rule is you have to listen to your chainsaw, and after a while you're gonna get a feeling. Whenever you hit an overhead, you're going to have this clicking noise of your chainsaw after a while. And you have to pay attention to that noise. I'm gonna be quiet so you can hear it. Tuk. Now after that beeping noise ended, you heard that dunk noise. And that's, for me, an indicator of when I am gonna be able to hit. Boom. So you always wanna wait until you hear this boom noise before you start swinging. And if you do that, and you keep your chainsaw always at least above 50%, you will be fine and will always be able to hit them. If you, let's say, you don't have enough time to wait, or it happens on accident and you hit your chainsaw with a little bit more than 50, you have to wait and stand longer, because as you can see, like the M1 bar takes away, and you need to get the feeling. So the less ref your chainsaw was before you hit, the longer you have to wait. But yeah, like I said, if you manage to keep your chainsaw always around that beeping noise, like 90%-ish, I would say, you always listen to that indicator before you start swinging. So before we talk about how to position yourself for the one-shot combi, we need to talk about how to land those overhands. So most scenarios, the victims are gonna run straight, or you have like a corridor where the victims cannot really spin, or they're running up the stairs or down the stairs. In that scenario, the overheads are easier to hit. You don't have to worry too much about spinning, because then your auto aim most of the time will do the trick, but sometimes you miss them. Don't be worried about that. And sometimes the victims are in an open field, and if the victim really knows what to do or like how to spin, it kind of gets worse if you're playing against controller player, because for them spinning is a little bit easier. There's not really much you can do as a Bubba. So you kind of have three options. The option one is just go for it. Just try to predict where they are. Just swing and hope for the best, which is if the victim is in a very, very good spot where there are multiple gaps or crawl spaces, sometimes is the best play. The other is if the victim keeps spinning, that you stop running overhead and just do regular M1. So you release your mouse from your revving. At the moment you're not overheading anymore, you go for the M1s, because the M1s, they do have a very, very good auto-aim hit detection. So you kind of follow them then, so it's hard for them to spin, and then you can get maybe like your 2 hits in there, maybe 3, which is still a lot of damage. Or option 3, which I try to go most of the time, is be super patient. It obviously depends, like I said, if the victim is in a bad spot or in a good spot, but if you have a victim in a bad spot, you kind of want to position yourself where the next area is the victim want to go, and be patient. Spinning costs stamina for the victims, and also if you have comms, or if you see your teammates coming, grandpa screams, highlighted, cooked, like a lot of reasons where actually your teammates will come. So if a teammate is coming, you never want to do an overhead until he's out of stamina. Because the victim has 2 options. Either keep spinning and get hit by your teammate, or stop spinning and get hit by you. So I'm gonna have like one small little example video here. And yeah, as you can see, we're having a Leland. He first of all is highlighted. This was a solo queue game, so it did not have teammates and no communication, but Leland was highlighted yellow because Grandpa was screaming. So the whole family knew he was there. And when we play the clip a little bit longer, you can see that he's actually running in a very bad place. So we're gonna pause here again. He had a decision to run to the door in garden, which was destroyed. So now he is at the tree, which is a bad area. There's not really much right next to him. So he has like a gap on the chen, which is a little bit far away. Then the door, which is destroyed, or like all the way that gap where Grandpa can spawn. So he's in a very open, very bad area. So for me to be not patient here would be bad. And if you keep playing it out now, you see that I'm just running around him. I'm circling him. I'm kind of zoning him away from the door here, and then from the gap, and then he has no stamina. My teammate arrived, and you can land that overhead. In this case, I didn't go for the M1 because, yeah, my random teammate, she played well. I wanted to give the kill to him, or to her, and yeah, then Lena dies, and that was it. So yeah, just keep in mind that if it's an open area, be patient, and yeah, if the victims really know how to spin, there's not much you can do besides patience, go for a lucky hit, or hit them with M1s. And now I'm explaining why you also really never want to instantly hit your victim after you did an M1, and you always want to wait for the dung noise I just explained. There are 2 reasons for that. The first reason is, like I explained, so you do not stall after you do that. But there's another reason, and that reason is, in my opinion, way, way, way more important. And I've learned that, I would say, maybe after playing Bubba for 200, 300 hours. So that's like a very important tip. And I would say that's the reason why people love big swings more than scout, because you don't have to do that positioning and that thinking, and you will just insta-kill them without using any strategy or any brain. But if you know how to position yourself, you will always be able to get that one-shot combo off. I've prepared 2 videos, and in those 2 videos we have the exact same scenario with the exact same victim positioning. And on the first one, I'm running after that victim, and I overhead her at the same position and run behind her, and the moment I am behind her, I start to hit. So the other reason is, the moment you hit the victim that's overheaded, he will be able to stand up and start walking again. So the longer you wait, the better you can position. But yeah, as you saw here, I overhead them, I walk towards her, and the moment I reach her, I just overhead, and like I did them once, and that Virginia barely made it through that gap. If you now think about your positioning, so you need to be in the victim's mind, or you need to know the map. After you hit an overhead on a victim, you need to think about the possibilities. Where are the victims most likely going to run? In the scenario here in the freezer or the cold room in Slaughterhouse, that Virginia has 2 options. She either goes to the left on that gap to escape you, which is very unlikely because the way over there is too long and you can get easy hit in. She either turns around, runs into you and tries to go for the door, which no victim will ever do, or she will try to take that gap. So if you now hit that overhead, and in your downtime where you're waiting for your chainsaw to rev, while you're revving your chainsaw, and position yourself towards the area where the victim is most likely going to run, you kinda cut off their way. So you force that victim to run into you, and if you do that, you will always get those 2 M1s in, and it doesn't matter what the victim is running. If that victim does not have no cell, an overhead and 2 M1s, after the scout changes, after the skill tree changes, will always be enough to kill a victim. I'm going to show you both clips now again in a row so you can actually see the difference in comparison. So if you made it this far into this video, and you now know everything you need to know about the mechanic when you're playing Leatherface. You know how to run your chainsaw, you know how to move, how to not stall, how to kill, and everything that is like gameplay about Bubba. The thing that is missing now is, I would say, the game sense. Like how do you adapt to your in-game? That's something you cannot really learn or study, and it's really depending on every single situation. But I would say one of the most important things as a Leatherface when it comes to your actual gameplay is to know when you should leave the basement. And yeah, this obviously is a very important aspect of your Bubba gameplay. It's also, I would say, makes or breaks your game. It's like, are you actually a useful, impactful Leatherface? Can you carry the game? Are you scary to the victim? Are you helpful to your teammate or not? And yeah, this depends obviously on how your teammates play, how you play, how the actual game plays on, and it's hard to actually explain. It comes a lot with game experience, but I would say there is something that explains it quite well, and this is what I consider the 50% rule. So the 50% rule is not really something that is written in book. It's more like something I came up with to explain you, or to give you some examples of what to do in what situation. And I would say I ran some numbers and tests, and I would say most of my games I act on this rule without actually, you know, having that rule in my mind. And yes, the 50% rule is obviously also still depending on the map you play, the family members you're playing with, and what victims are you in the game. And yeah, sometimes this strategy is completely useless if you have your own strategy. So for example, if you run a team comp and you just all want to rush basement and trap down stuff basement or the sea chasing, whatever, right, then obviously it's your own strategy, and then, you know, like that 50% rule doesn't trigger. But I would say in most of your games, or when you're playing solo queue, you should act according to this 50% rule. So what exactly is the 50% rule? 50% rule because of you take the remaining victims in the games and divide it by 2. So you take 50% of the still alive victims in the game. And yeah, then you have the number of victims who left the game, right? So let's say one victim left the game, then in this scenario, like y equals 1. And let's say every victim is still alive. So you have 4 divided by 2, so 50% of 4, that's 2, and that's x. So now the rule of the 50% rule, if y is bigger or equal to x, you should leave the basement. So if you have 4 victims alive on our example, right, x is 2, y1 left the basement, so y is not bigger or equal to x, that means you should stay in the basement. This seems now maybe a little bit complicated and it's still math, but I'm going to explain this a little bit better in some details, and you should watch this video from here until the end because I'm going to add a lot of stuff to that math. But yeah, just so you know, in the beginning, that's the math. 50% alive, that's x, and how many left, that's y, and if y bigger than x or the same, then you should leave. So some of you now ask like, okay, and how should I know how many actually left the basement? Is there like, I don't get a notification, it never says he left the basement, so how do I actually make sense, or how do we actually use this formula? And the answer to that is if you use the legal family hack that this game has built in. So if you look at your score screen, on PC it's pressing tab, you will always see how many points a victim have. So, and if the victim spawns and they free themselves, they have 0 points, and then they go to their first item. So it's a bone shard, it's a health potion, it's a toolbox, whatever. If they pick up an item, they get 50 points. That only goes once. So you don't get more than 50 points by picking up an item. So if you pick up a bone shard and then a lockpick, it's still only 50 points. So then if you actually unlock a door, so it doesn't matter if you're upstairs or in the basement, if a victim unlocks a door, they get 200 points. So obviously if you play and you press tab every once in a while, and you should get into the habit of pressing tab as much as possible, because that's free cheats, that's free map hack, that's free wall hack if you want to say it like that. And why wouldn't you use a cheat that devs give to you? So yeah, if you press tab and you see someone has 250 points, you know, okay, this person unlocked the door. But that doesn't mean they left, because leaving the basement gives 100 points. Yes, surviving 1 minute gives 25 points. Also, opening a crawl space, cutting down bone shards. There are a lot of things in the game that actually give 25 points. So you should actually keep an eye on the victim's points. So in case someone cuts down, whatever, 4 bone shards, right, they all of a sudden have 100 points. And if you didn't see them getting low points over the course of the time, you now have to assume that they left. But if you saw, okay, this victim has 75 points, that means he's cutting down bone shards or stuff like that, right? So yeah, if you see, the golden rule is, if you see a victim with 350 points, that means that victim got themselves a toolbox, ran to a door, opened it, and then ran upstairs. And if you keep, like I said, track of the points by pressing tab, and you, for example, you have a scenario where one victim gets 200 points, then the same victim gets 100 points, and shortly after, two other victims also get 100 points. That obviously means there were 3 people at one door, one of them opened it, and all 3 of them went upstairs. So yeah, this is just like a rule for you. It's hard to say, okay, if a victim has more than 300 points, that means they left, because no, obviously victims can leave the basement from a door they didn't open themselves. So yeah, it's really, really important for you to have an eye on these points. And yeah, it's just there's nothing in this game that straight up gives 100 points, and if victims are opening crawlspace and stuff, they have weird and odd numbers. Also, it doesn't happen that often, I would say. Unless it's a Leland, I would say a Leland is most likely to randomly cut down bones. But yeah, he will cut down bones in that time someone unlocks, and then he all of a sudden gets 100 points. So since we're talking about the points, just something important to mention if you actually leave the yard. So it's hard to say the yard. I would always say, like, they went through the first doors. So for example, on Slaughterhouse map, if they went into facility or slaughterhouse. On Nancy's house, if they got into car battery side or into the front garden. Like, you know, like if they leave the inner perimeter of your defense points, they get 200 points. So it's also a nice cheat if you somehow in the late game still keep tracking points and you see a victim only getting 200 points. That means that victims unlocked a door in the basement. If you now see a victim, though, getting 200 points and then instantly 200 points again, they mean they open, for example, a facility door and then left the yard. So that's just something I have to put in here. Like, since we're talking about this, very, very useful information later in the game. So if you see a victim all of a sudden getting 400 points, you know this victim managed to break through somewhere. And for example, if you were defending or staying on generator, you now know you have to run car battery ASAP. So these are just a number. These are just some legal hacks for you. And yeah, the most important things here is like 300 points leaving or randomly 100 point out of nowhere. This means this victim actually left the basement. Okay, so now you know about the numbers. Now you know how to leave a basement. And before I'm going to show you on how this formula get changed, if depending on the maps or teammates or the victims, I'm going to show you the face formula now, because it just was a lot of explaining and talking. So now again, right, so 50% rule, that means 50% of the victims is X and victims who left the basement is Y. If Y is bigger than the 50% rule or equal, then you leave the basement. And yeah, now we're gonna start and talk about how this is depending on some variables. So the first one is the map. So depending on the map, and the map changes the value of X. So just to remind you again, X is the 50% rule, or like 50% of the remaining victims in the game. How? Because I need to explain how this affects the value in the later game, so if more maps are getting released. For now, since I made this video, these are the maps we have in the game, and my decision or how you should think about if it influences the value is how good is the kill potential, like how easy is the map to defend upstairs, and how well can you path to the well dropped down location. If you If you want to see web drop-down locations, you can now see in the top right-hand corner. I'm having every single map with well drop-down locations in the game, so if you don't know where the wells lead to, you can check this out or mark it for later. But yeah, I know the first thing that comes to mind, abandoned mill. Why does this map has a 0? Why? Because it is, in my opinion, the hardest map for family. This was a really hard decision for me to put it on a 0, but if you have a hitchhiker that actually uses my hitchhiker trap placements on the mill, this map is very, very easy for family members. If your hitchhiker doesn't do that, then it's tough. It really is tough, but in the end, worst case scenario, you know, a cook can stay in generator, but yeah, like, if you don't have a hitch doing that, you can give the map a -1. I just didn't want it to, because if you look at my valuation, is like, how good is the kill potential? The basement, like, this influences, like, not in general, but you need to think the victims want to get to the sliding doors in the basement to leave the basement. That's where the kill potential is important. So on Bandom Mill, I love it. I think sewer exit, it's a death trap unless the victim is actually playing it smart, because that loop is infinite, but I've seen a lot of victim messing up that loop, me myself included, so easier said than done. As long as you have Scout Bubba, of course. If you're not running Scout Bubba, then the sewer exit, it's impossible. And then we have the Gore Room exit, which is like complete in the middle. There's like no loops anywhere. Then you have the Overgrown, which is a little bit tricky, but the Red Room is so hard, especially if you destroy the crawl space in Employee Room. And then the Cold Room also, if you have the Bubba Breakable store, just straight up death sentence. So every door itself is really, really easy to get to and kill to. There's not a lot of strong loops. And the well drop-down locations are also amazing. They're, besides the one in Dick Room, they're easy to get to. You're super fast there. There's not really to loop right next to it. So yeah. And like I said, the upstairs is easy if I had using up. So that's why it's a 0. Then, for example, on Family House, I would say most doors, they have like ugly loops. Red Room has the drop down. The Go Room has the crawl space. There's way too much stuff you have to destroy. And also on Family House, I think you should always be up in some case some jumps just the window. It's just the kill potential not too good, and if someone jumps the window and the hitchhiker is not using, you know, my perfectly placed hitchhiker trap outside the window, it's hard if you're not there as a Bubba and the map can be over. So that's why it's a -1. Gas station, for example, there are some good loops on the doors. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Red Room is not the strongest. 2 storage can be a death trap. Dickhead is a death trap. Car parts is a death trap, right? There's like a lot of doors which are a death trap if you get a victim there. And also the wells are directly in the middle of a tunnel. The tunnels themselves, they have no loops if the Bubba Breakable storage. So in my opinion, probably the best basement for Bubba to be in. And I love to have games where I be in the basement non-stop. So then you have Nancy's house, right? Nancy's house is every single door, man cave, gap, that's an infinite. You have garden storage, a gap and a door, that's an infinite. Red Room, you have to destroy the sewer, I mean, you have to destroy the crawl space, then that's the only death trap. Cold Room has the Bubba Breakable, and yeah, Trophy Room is, it's kinda good for Bubba, if, like, instantly. So yeah, it's hard, the loops are annoying, and like even a cook cannot easily defend the house, also the spawn so often, so that's why it's also -1. And then we have Slaughterhouse, that's straight up -2. I think you should always instantly go up the basement right there, right now. Don't get me wrong, I don't think you should start and go up directly in Bone Room. I think you should either beeline Workshop and go up to storage, or beeline to Workshop and then go straight to North Storage and upstairs. Maybe you can do one rotation where you hope you get lucky from bone room to workshop and to storage, but then instantly go up. I would say like the bone room one is nice if you want to have an early kill, but if you're unlucky that 2 or 3 victims are upstairs, worst case scenario you had blue container, so high risk, high reward, I would say. So yeah, just beeline a very important door in the middle, which is 2 storage or north storage, and then go up. Because upstairs, if the crawl spaces are destroyed, it's actually good kill potential. If not, it's impossible to kill. Blue container, impossible to defend. It's like, even if we play with a strategy, it's a 3-man squad and we all know what to do, I need to leave instantly, because every strategy still relies on the crawl space destroyed. So yeah, that's why Slaughterhouse is a straight up -2. I think it's like one of the worst in the basements as well. So every door is kind of like easy unless it's the garage. The garage is death sentence, but every other door is very easy loopable as well. So yeah, I think you should go up as fast as possible. So now you know like why maps have whatever value and how I value them. Now we take an example of the map, how that map influences. So for the example I prepared here, we have 3 victims alive. So now we think about the 50% rule, right? X equals 50% of the survive or alive victim. So that's 3 divided by 2, that's 1.5. So then we have 1 victim left the basement. That means y equals 1, because, you know, 1 victim left the basement. And we're playing on the Nancy house. So as you can see, Nancy house -1 changes value of x. So okay, so we do -1 to the value of x. What was our value of x? X was 3 divided by 2, that's 1.5. And since we're playing Nancy's house, that's -1. So x is 0.2 in this scenario. Y equals 1 because 1 victim left the basement. And now we do the simple math. Is y bigger or equal to x? And in this scenario, well, yes, 1 is bigger than 0.5. That means you now should leave the basement. So this is how I would play the map, right? I'm N's house, I stay here, I see if I can get lucky, maybe I get 1 victim. And yeah, I got a victim. Oh, still 1 left. Okay, I should go up. The map is not good to stay down there. It's quite tricky to defend upstairs, so yeah. In that scenario, with that map, you should now leave the basement. Okay, so the next important thing is that not only the map should influence your decision, your teammates should also influence your position. And the same goes here again, depending on the teammate changes the value of x. And by the time I'm making this video, we have the following family teammates, or the family character in the game, which is Cook, Hans, Hitz, Johnny, Nancy, and Sissy. And all of them have certain pros and cons. How I say the teammate influences the value is how good can they actually defend an area. So Cook, for example, he has his padlocks, right? Hitch the trap, and like if you have a teammate that can actually defend an area, that doesn't influence the value because they stay 0. And if they're not the best at defending the an area or doors, then they get a -1. And the other thing that comes, you need to think about, so Nancy, for example, she can kind of defend an area, right? She's pretty strong when it comes to pushing the victims out of her side. She can sadly not trap the doors themselves, so that's like also a big weakness. But she also needs setup time. If the victims rush and you have a Nancy who needs 12 seconds to place a trap, compared to the hitchhiker that takes 2 seconds to place a trap, it's way, way harder for her to defend the gates. First of all, she cannot defend the gate. She needs a setup. She needs to place a perimeter of her, which she can patrol. And victims are hard to push through there. But yeah, she still needs setup time. And yeah, so this is like how I, in the future, if new family members come out, so you can think about how are they, what are the weaknesses, and yeah, that's why we have Cook 0, because Cook, one of the best defending the area. If your Cook has security pins, it's, well, only a Connie, I would say, or fast hands can push through that. If you have no security pins on your Cook, I would still give him a 0 because he has some slowdown, but he might go down to -1. Because in the end, a non-security pins padlock is just not a padlock. Maybe yes, if he doesn't, that means he's feeding blood, so he can get Nobody Escapes Hell up, which is a cheap version of security pins, right? But yeah, a little bit too much in details. Like, I would say just in general, the Cook has -0 because he has setup time super quick, padlock putting down takes a second, and the padlocks are super hard to push through. He also has information. Most Cooks stay in their territory, push the victims away, so that's a good one. Same goes for hands. Placing a trap on the door themselves goes in like 2 seconds. He's very, very hard to push through because even if you go through him, he can ripstall it. So maybe he even deserves a +1. But yeah, never put a +1 in my math, otherwise the math is gonna fuck it up. So yeah, that's why he stays 0. But yeah, so far really at the moment the best to defend an area or a side. Then the same goes for hit. She can place, same as Nancy, traps in the perimeter so they cannot push through, or he puts them on the gate himself, but the difference is he takes 2 seconds setup time instead of Nancy, and yeah, he can reset them in 1 second, and Nancy takes 12. So that's why Hitch is also one of the best. The legendary trio in the beginning was Cook, Hitch, and Leatherface. Now we have hands as well. So yeah, most of the time if you have those teammates, you can rely on them defending their side, and yeah, they're also good and quick. Then we have Chani. Chani is deadly, the deadliest killer in the game. If he hits you 3 times and he hits you 3 times in a second, you're dead, but he has no slowdown. Worst case scenario, like I'm not even joking there, if 4 victims push Chani at the same time and he's in the killing animation, by the time he's taking the killing animation, the other 3 can unlock the door, run to the car, and turn car off where the other one unlocks the door. It's really, really tough, so he has no slowdown. He also needs to run back and forth, and yeah, if he's on the one door, maybe chasing a victim a little bit, you know, like, he doesn't need to chase long because he kills you instantly, but every second matters if you have no slowdown. So yeah, even if he's very strong, he's very, very deadly. He just have no slowdown, and the victims can sneak through him, push through him, and overrun him. And that's why he gets a -1. Nancy, I explained in the beginning, she has okay slowdown. She can defend an area quite good. Sadly, she cannot trap the gates themselves, and yeah, she needs a shit ton of setup time. So that's why Nancy gets the -1 as well. And then we have Sissy. She does have her poison to put the poison in front of the door, which is kind of like a hitchhiker trap, but in the end, a hitchhiker trap just deals way more damage. You, as well as a Leatherface, you get a notification that someone ran into that trap. With Sissy not. If someone runs in Sissy poison, it deals nearly no damage, and you as a Leatherface, you don't get the notification. And yeah, also those poisons don't stay forever, so at one point she has to leave and she has to refill. Yeah, so in overall, most of the time Sissy also are not really doing what I said, poisoning doors. They rather chase victims, so they're also more chase oriented, so less defending. That's why she also gets a -1. Okay, so now I explain all the values, and now we put the victims into our map. So for the example I've been running here, we have 4 victims alive. It means you didn't kill a single one. One of the victims left the basement. That means, yeah, y equals 1, right? And yeah, sorry, 4 victims alive, that means x, 50% of 4, that's 2. We're playing on a map gas station, and your teammates are Sissy and Cook. Okay, so we look at gas station. You need to think about the maps I just showed you. So yeah, okay, we check, gas station. Okay, gas station means 0, and then we have Sissy, we can see here, -1, and we have Cook, 0, okay. So that means X is completely influenced only by Sissy because cook and gas station gives 0, so it's x minus 1. So we do the map again. So 4 alive, 50% of 4, that's 2. And then obviously we only have Sissy, that's a minus 1. That means x in this scenario, in this setup, equals 1. What do we have? One victim left the basement, so y equals 1. And yeah, we need to do the check. So is y actually bigger or equal to x? In this scenario, 1 is 1. That means yes, you should leave the basement. Okay, sorry. I know that's a lot of math, but that's, in my opinion, the only way how to explain it. And trust me, boys, it's only this one, and then we're done with the math for this video. So yeah, now we need to think about the victims who left the basement. So now we know like what is the given for you, what is your territory to play at, what teammates do you have to play with, and now we have to think about the victims. It's not every victim is equal. I know some protest here, but no, not everyone is equal. And yeah, depending on the situation, which victim left the basement, that will influence the value of y. So y, when we think about y was actually how many victims left the basement equals y. So yeah, the victim who left the basement influences or changes the value of y. So how do you think about that? How game-breaking or strong is the victim ability? Connie, for example, she has her ability, she can just go there and delete a security pin's padlock. That's nothing any other victim can do. Fast hands can do it, yeah, but fast hands someone has to be right next to her or like next to the victim, so maybe it's not like that easy to pull it off. At least the family member will see it. But Connie can do it whenever she wants, wherever she wants. And it's not only the padlocks, it's also if she goes, removes the hitchhiker traps, unlocks the door, and yeah, hitchhiker realizes that a second too late, instantly runs to car, but by the time he arrives, their car is off and she pops the ability on the gate. That's all things only Connie can do. So yeah, Connie counts as a two-man squad, right? Because obviously normally one needs to do the car, at the same time one needs to do the gate. And well, Connie does it herself because she does the gate instantly. So yeah, that's why Connie in that scenario like gets a +1. So she changes the value of x by 1. And the other one that we currently have in the game is Danny because of her temper. If you have her hands in the game, yes, okay, maybe not the +1, but still, it's still tempered, so you don't know the hands has ripstalled. Also, they force hands to run away, and it's not only the pressure tank, it's the fuse, it's everything, right? Like so Danny in general, his ability is very, very strong and can do something super fast and super strong, which you only have one counter to at the moment I'm making this video. So yeah, he's also in general a very strong victim, and that's why he gets +1. Every other victim, don't get me wrong, every victim has the unique power, right? Sonny is very good when it comes to door slam. Virginia is hard to catch because of her throwing powder. Leland can protect someone, but in the end, it's what you should think about, how easy is for a victim to do an objective or do something no one else can do. And so yeah, that's why it's only Connie and Danny at the moment in the game, which has like game-breaking abilities, I would call them. So yeah, that's why Connie and Danny's gets a +1. And yeah, so now we need to add that also to our math. So we have another example here. So we have 4 victims alive, so 50% rule. X is 50% of 4, or 4 divided by 2, so that's 2. So that's the base number. Then we have 1 victim who left the basement, that's Connie. Y always was equal to the victims left, right? But in this scenario, like I said, Connie gives +1, so in this scenario, Y is 2. Then we have abandoned mill, and if we think about the map, circle backs, abandoned mill was 0, and your teammates are hands and hitch, both were 0. So this scenario, X is not getting influenced by anything because mill, hands, and hitch. So your playground, your teammates, doesn't influence the map. So in this scenario, x is 4 life divided by 2 is 2, and then plus 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 0. That means x is 2. And yeah, y was victims left the basement, and Connie gives that value a +1. That means y is 2. So in the scenario, if you have 4 victims alive on the mill with hands and hitch, and only one of them left the basement, which is the Connie, you should leave. Because, well, y is equal to 2, and that means leaving. So now you know when to leave the basement. But knowing when to leave the basement without knowing what to do once you left the basement doesn't help you at all. Yes, of course, if you're upstairs, you can always destroy the crawl spaces, the Bubba breakables, and the doors. Plus, you're always close if your teammates are actually calling out for help. But especially if you're playing solo queue, your teammates are not always gonna call out for help. And if you wanna solo carry your games in the future, or if you actually wanna be a Godbub, you need to do the most with the information that's given to you. And one of the most important things that is given to you, or you need to learn, is reading the victim's mind, or guessing the victim's next move. Guessing the victim's next move sounds way harder than it actually is, and it's really something that is given to you as long as you know your maps, your rotations, and your basement. So if you still struggle with the basement layout, or where the doors lead to, or how to efficiently rotate the basement doors, you can now click in the top right hand corner of the video. And there's a video of me where I'm explaining the beginning of every Leatherface game, where you should go, what rotation you should have, and which basement door leads to where. So if you now know the whole basement, your loadout, your map, and where the doors lead to, you know, like the basic map knowledge, you can now make use out of what is given to you to guess the victim's next move. So let's take, for example, gas station, and you were rotating from car parts to storage shed to 2 storage, and you see a victim open the door from the points. And you know, like, that car parts, storage shed, and 2 storage are still closed. You have 2 options now. The shorter or the fastest way to leave the basement now would be from storage shed, which is kind of like next to you, or main, which is a little bit further away, but in the end you should always go for main right here. And the reason for that is, you know that 3 of your doors are locked, and if you now go towards main, you can check if main is unlocked or locked. So let's say you left from main and you saw that the door down there was still locked. It only leaves one door that could be unlocked, and that's Dickett. So knowing Dickett is open, you now need to know how victims play. So victims will always go for the door that is closer to the door they left the basement, because running across the entire map is not something victims want to do. Even experienced victims player, they kind of want to be efficient, so they're just gonna go for the door that's closest. Plus, it is kind of dangerous to run across the entire map. If you get seen there and there were teammates and you have to take the well, there is a chance that actually Leatherface is waiting already down there on that well drop-down location. Or you take some hits before you have to well, that means you lose your no-cell stacks, or you bleed out down the well, or you need a health potion now. So that's like something victims player don't do. They go for the closest door, and if a family member is defending or is standing right there, they're gonna sit in the bush. And trust me, they're gonna sit there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, how long whatever it takes for that family member to finally leave the door they want to go for. So Knowing these now, they came up ticket. That means there's an 80% chance they're gonna go for left side generator. And I just said they don't like to go across the map, but it's a little bit different on gas station because it's, first of all, it's right behind the house, so it's super hidden. And plus there's like a bushes leading from ticket all the way to container. So there's a chance they're gonna go for a container or right side car battery. So you left main now. The first thing you're gonna check is left side generator. And if you don't see a victim there, you're gonna quickly check on container. And if you don't see a victim there, you know now for a fact that a victim is gonna hide in those bushes or next to a tree. That means you now run a little bit in that area until you find your victim. That obviously goes for every other door. For example, on gas station, right? If they open car parts, it's gonna be 80% chance right side generator. If they come up to storage, it's 80-90% left side car battery. If they come up main, it's a little bit of a 50-50. I would say container is maybe higher, so 60% chance right side car, 40 left side gen. And if they open storage shed, I would say it's 60% right side generator. That obviously goes for every other map as well, so make sure to learn your map layouts and where those exits lead to. Obviously, the example I gave you is like 100% knowledge that this door is open, but that also doesn't happen in every game. Sometimes you don't know all the doors, right? Let's take Nancy's house for example. You were just in garden storage and you ran towards man cave and you see a door is unlocked. On your way back towards trophy room, you can now look through the gap and see garden door is also locked. So now you know it's trophy room locked, man cave locked, and garden locked, but that still leaves cold room open or sewer open. So these are like, right, sewer and cold room, they're kind of far away. I mean, like sewer means it's right side car and cold room means it's right side car. So in the end, most of the time you can kind of locate the area. I would say the hardest one is maybe slaughterhouse, when you, let's say you only know that 2 storage is unlocked and north storage is unlocked. Both are locked because you are there and the others are actually too far away to check. It makes no sense to check them. That now means it's either garage or bone room, right? Or yeah, garage or bone room. So yeah, it's garage means right side facility, bone room means sliding door or right side, right? So now you know there's the highest chance is right side facility, garage. So you go there, you check there, and if you don't see them, you go back to sliding door and then you go back to garage. So if the victim actually came up bone room, you kind of running into or through the victim a lot of times are gonna be annoying. In the end, you just have to slow them down or deny them from instantly unlocking the door, right? And in the end, maybe your teammate comes, your teammate helps, you run into him, do you see them, you hear them, right? There's like a lot of chances. But yeah, just knowing where they can actually be coming up from or the general area where they are going to be. And yeah, the other thing is a little bit later in the game, since we're talking about reading the victim's mind, keep in mind that if a victim managed to unlock left side car battery on whatever map, and you force that victim to take the well, there's a very, very high chance that victim either instantly or a little bit later in the game is gonna go for the exact same door again. And yeah, that counts for every victim, for every map, and also if there's no hands in the game, you need to be very careful about the fuse, because especially if that's the last victim alive, I would say 90% of the time, the last victim with no hands, maybe even 99%, will go for the fuse. So these are things how you can kind of read the victim's mind and then guess the victim's next move. I'm going to show you a quick video of a game I played myself in solo queue where I made use out of everything I taught you so far. So enjoy. We redeemed ourselves. Whatever. I don't know. I got robbed. Yeah, the first one was obviously Gigabat, but the Leland one we got robbed. I feel I got robbed on that Leland, not gonna lie. Because the Judy one, it's just well, sorry my cutie. No, I got robbed again. How did she open that? Okay, you know what? This Judy lives. The game is telling me something here. The game tells me Julie needs to live. Oh, she didn't open. Anna is up. Anna went up 2 storage. Anna opened 2 storage. Anna could be on bridge. Johnny, by the way, I think Anna came up 2 storage. Yes, she's already on her. Exactly. Julie didn't have enough points for that. Okay, so Julie lives, right? We let Julie go. Let's see if we can somehow sneak her out of Johnny's watch. But I take that as a sign of God. Hold her back down. Connie left through 2 storage. I think Connie's coming up 2 storage as well, by the way. She got 100 points. She didn't open a door. The only door open is 2 storage. She has to be in there. Right? Has to be.
Oh, you ain't getting away.
I'm watching you. Either that? Nah, it has to be like that. Exactly. Global Ball X for the win. So, let's see who was actually paying very close attention to everything I said so far and to everything that happened in that last video. So, the first time I'm executing Leland, I'm checking the points, and no one of them has any points. You see, like, Anna and Judy, they opened a crawl space, Leland opened a box and cut down a bone, and so did Connie. The next time I see a Julie on 2 storage and I'm gonna go for her, but after a while I'm checking points and it took a bit until I realized something's wrong. So while I was executing at Leland and while I was finding that Julie, there were actually 3 different points that changed. Anna got 300 points, Julie got 100 points, and also Connie got 100 points right there. I only saw Anna because she was on the top. I saw Julie's one because I was the one that was chasing her, and it didn't pay attention to the Connie. After all, I went upstairs. I knew where Anna went, and where Julie tried to go up to. What I didn't know is that actually Connie went up right before Julie, and if you rewatch the video, you can actually see her. So she was up, but since she heard Leatherface in her basement, plus Johnny was running around in 2 storage, she was hiding at 2 storage the entire time. The only thing that gave her away is she opened the crawl space, where she died right next to it. Because those 50 points, while I was checking the points, made me realize the points changing, and I paid attention to her that those points can only mean one thing, that she actually left the basement. So for me, I thought she got 100 points, but actually she got 50 points. But in the end, it was still the same. She came up to storage and Johnny was there and she was hiding there. So in the end, it worked out perfectly fine. So now we reached the last point, and the last thing I'm going to explain you in this video so you can improve your Leatherface. You now know everything you need to know. You know how to start the game, you need to know how to start the chainsaw, you know how to run around, you know how to kill, you know how to track the victims, you now know how to be in the victim's mind to guess the next move, and the only thing you now need to know is how to efficiently find the victims. Let's say you figured out our last point and now can accurately track the victim's movement and you know where they want to go. So let's say you play Nancy's house and the victims left from garden storage and you need to find them there. So You go towards garden storage, but where are they? Are they actually in the bush right in front of it? Are they behind it? Are they still inside? Are they next to the bush? And what storage they can be everywhere? Maybe they even snuck across the bridge, you know, like they can be anywhere there. And if you want to be most efficient and not waste too much time looking for the victim and give all the victims enough time to open stuff, you need to run this one little trick. And the last trick is using your family sync. Family sync on PC, that is the middle mouse, is when your screen gets a little bit black whitish and all the sound, the chainsaw noise, all that stuff is gonna get quieter, and you see your teammates highlighted. As a cook or as a hitchhiker or as a Nancy, you need that family sync so you can check your traps. That's the only way for them to check your traps and you check the padlocks. But you, as a Leatherface, you don't have traps, you don't have padlocks, you don't need anything to check. Yes, I know it helps in solo queue a lot to see where are your teammates. If you leave the basement and you want to know where exactly is Johnny running around, where is he defending, then yes, your family sync helps. If you hear a victim screaming or you're Johnny hitting a victim, you need your family sync to see where is he so you can go there without him calling for help and telling where he is. But still, I would always recommend to use your family sync instantly, always. You start the game, you use your family sync, it gives you a lot of information. You can hear the victim's voice lines. So everything the victim says, if they see, if Leland sees Julie, he says, "Hey, Jules!" So you hear that and you can pinpoint the location. So if you start your game and you hear that voice line, for example, you now know where Leland and Julie are. You can, if they open a toolbox, you can like, oh, maybe I can make something useful out of this. Maybe this is gonna unlock a door, so you know that victim is in a toolbox. That will help you with pinpointing down the location where they left. And then obviously it helps you to find the victims. So sometimes Connie says, keep moving, Connie, or, oh, these family members are crazy. So there's a random voice lines they're going to say throughout the game. So if a victim is hiding in a bush, you have a chance they're going to say something. Worst case scenario when you play victim is if you play Virginia. In my opinion, she never shuts up. She always talks about her baby boy, Jesse, and she needs to find him. So you, as a family member, have an easy time pinpointing the location of where Virginia is exactly. This can lead to amazing wallhack-ish kills, and victims are gonna complain in the after-game chat, or they're gonna report you for cheating because you randomly beelined a wall, you turn around the corner and instantly go for that overhead just because you can hear it and pinpoint the location. So yeah, make sure to use your family sync as often as possible, especially if you're looking for a victim. So if someone is in car battery and you know they're in there, and even if you have the perk down the rabbit hole and it didn't light up, you know that victim didn't well, and now you need to run around non-stop looking for that one victim hiding in a random bush. Popping your family sync right there whenever it's on cooldown while you're looking is gonna help you a lot. So that's the last thing I had to say. Use your family sync as often as possible. It's kind of like also a cheat code. It's wallhack, and trust me, you're gonna get a lot of cheater in the end game chat, and yeah, maybe people are gonna report you, but other than that, it's gonna be fine. The only thing I can show you now is some videos of where I'm actually using that family sync to get some nice information or some nice kills, and yeah, then that's it. That's all I had to say, and thank you all for watching, for being here for this whole video, or if you just checked out the last point, thank you so much for watching. In case everything I said or some of the things I said are gonna be useful and you're gonna make use out of it in your game and you're gonna have some great success, make sure to leave a like, and as always, if you feel super nice, make sure to comment in the video below or subscribe to my channel in case you didn't already. I'm gonna show the videos now and enjoy. Thank you so much. That was kind of like a good use. Maybe we can take that example. I have to write it down at least.
Get away from me right now.
Ooh. Let's go, Bubba!
Where's our Nancy?
Why are you doing
Oh.
this to me?
I found her. She's dead. Let's go. She's gonna think that I have wall hack.
Oh, wow, okay. Have you tested it really with like base executions? Because I know like it was... Okay. RIP. RIP. I don't know why it was only the newest cook animation that was f***ed up. Don't never get Anna down there. Danny was in bone room. Yeah, he's going for the door.
Oh, Connie disconnected.
Oh, yes, right there. I see him. There he goes. Family sing for the win. Even for the lose. Never mind. Being them for the win. I think I know this Connie, not gonna lie.
From me.
Okay.